Thanks for tuning in to As the Tire Turns podcast. Before we dive into this week's episode, I'd like to thank our sponsor, AME International. Tire professionals insist on AME. I'd also like to recognize the AACF. For over 65 years, the Automotive Aftermarket Charitable Foundation has stood by those in the automotive aftermarket industry and their families during life's toughest challenges. Since 1959, with the incredible support of industry partners, AACF has provided vital assistance to individuals and families facing financial hardship due to unforeseen circumstances, such as floods, earthquakes, storms, fires, catastrophic medical conditions, life-changing accidents, devastating fatalities, and more. AACF offers a straightforward application process and a quick turnaround time for those needing support during critical moments. Visit www.aftermarketcharity.org to access the application and learn more about how AACF can assist during times of need. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of our automotive aftermarket family. Support AACF today. And now, As the Tire Turns. All right, we're here for another edition of As the Tire Turns podcast. Today I'm joined with Koen Vandermeersch. Vandermeersch, okay, all right. All the way from Belgium, Antwerp, Belgium. And Koen, do you know how we got the name of the podcast, As the Tire Turns?
Well, I saw this survey coming through on LinkedIn, and I voted not for As the Tire Turns, I think.
You were one of the few votes. Well, it kind of takes its play from a soap opera, right? As the world turns, right? And so it's meant to be all things tire industry. But you're born in Belgium, lived all over the world, but in Europe. But are soap operas a thing? Does that translate well in Europe?
Soap opera is, yes, and sitcoms are definitely also very popular in Europe. And you have the local ones, and we have our own ones that go on for years, decades even.
So it is the same concept. Yeah. That was, I guess back in the day they used to want to advertise detergent or soap, right? So they would have the stories, right? Some people call them, but that's where the name came from. So I wasn't sure if that part connected or not. So
maybe somewhat less commercials though.
Yeah, well, it's evolved nowadays as well, but nonetheless, it's. So you and I met several years ago. Purpose of this, I'm serving this year as the president of the Tire Industry Association, and so this is part of a little effort for me to kind of memorialize, my year and talk to some people who have either made an impact in my career or in the industry, or maybe an up and comer or future impact. And so you and I've got to know each other recently in the past few years, but I'm always curious to know, how did you get into the tire industry?
I don't know, was it by chance or not, but it was an advert in the newspaper.
Really?
Yes, actually, when I was looking in 1993, was just only very short after my studies, actually, that my studies as freight forwarder. And after my military service, I joined a freight forwarding company in Antwerp, my hometown. Yeah. But I didn't get so well along with the lady who was actually running it, and it was just the two of us amidst another company. It was a very strange setup, and so I said, well, maybe it's not for me, and I'll try something else. And there's this advert for technical commercial reps with Michelin tires in Brussels.
Unbelievable.
So I said, okay, let's give that a try. And so we did several tests and everything, and they eventually they said, well, we're doubting between you and another person. But we did the psychoanalysis, and it tells us you came out better. So I don't know if that was good or not, but that's how it started. That was back in 1993 with Michelin.
Amazing. And that's where you spent really the bulk of your career up until most recently. You've got another venture, which we'll get into. But So you started in Belgium. Did you have global travel aspirations at that time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But they weren't met, and people were telling me, you're not ready for it.
Yeah.
So I kind of sat and waited while I was being trained and all this and that, and how to visit a customer and what to do with a customer and how to keep your records with pencil and paper and everything. So the first 5 years with Michelin, I spent actually as a truck and bus rep.
Yeah.
In Belgium, got allocated to different territories at the time, one after the other, and eventually I was so bad that people said, maybe you want to move to Earth Mover.
Okay.
Earth Mover, okay. Okay, bigger tires, yeah, sure, I'll give it a try.
Sure.
So by 98, they were giving me actually some really big footsteps to follow up in by a guy called René Ramant, who had been the rep for years for the Port of Antwerp.
Okay.
And really big time customers, millions of francs at the time of tires every year, and a really the major area in earth mover industrial tires in the north of Belgium at the time. But actually I liked it so much. It was really a great time. I learned a lot of things. I was actually my own boss because people would let me. Said, okay, there's some admin part and there's some field part. And I had my small apartment in the city, and I went out at 7 in the morning to see the machines, came back at 10, do some admin, go back at lunchtime, and to have the understanding also that we work when the machines rest.
Right.
Which was not so easy for everyone. But I learned a whole lot of things. But eventually always this ambition to go abroad kept coming back.
Yeah.
And I kept pushing my boss. That's where I want to go, abroad. I want to learn things. I want to live in another country. I want to work in another country. I want to see and live another culture. Not just go on a holiday, but actually be part of it as much as possible.
Beautiful. And so Belgium or the Benelux, right? So you've got Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg. But Belgium and the Netherlands in particular, Rotterdam and then Antwerp are massive gateways into Europe, right?
Yeah.
So is the and I know Antwerp is big in diamond cutting and so on, but no actual diamonds mined in. That's all coming from probably Africa.
We let the dirty work do by somebody else.
Yeah. But is the mining or the OTR market in Belgium in particular, is it primarily port tires and maybe some small construction, road construction, infrastructure?
There's actually the two parts. In the north, which is which is a service industry, and the port of Antwerp is considered really a service industry of moving goods in and out.
Yeah.
So in that sense, you have a lot of industrial tires. But on the other hand, in the south of Belgium, you still have a lot of quarries.
There are.
Not really mines, quarries. Yep. So a lot of rock is mined, aggregates. And you even have machines up to 4057 tire size.
Okay.
Even there was at some point one, I believe, Caterpillar 996 active in the region. I'm not sure if it's still there, but it's the one that everybody in Belgium in OTR had to see.
Yeah.
So we had a bit of both, but definitely not in size and not in volume like you would have in many countries. I mean, we're just a handkerchief on the map. So
yeah, and when you did eventually fulfill those abroad ambitions, I guess, right? Where did you go on behalf of Michelin?
Actually, I have a lot to thank for my boss at the time at Michelin in Brussels, which is Jan Ruben. And at one day in Brussels, Jan came back to me with the news. He said, "I'm moving to Moscow to take up responsibility for the team in Moscow." I said, "Oh no, this is a disaster because there is no news for me." And he's the one been telling me, "Koen, we'll make sure you'll also have an opportunity." So I was a bit afraid what's happening, and couple of weeks later, he came back and said, "You want to join me in Moscow?" So that took me about 5 seconds to decide.
Yeah.
And that was the first stop.
And then I know at least China, Australia, and Middle East, right?
Yeah, then from Moscow, actually, I spent 4 years there. So that was primarily focused on Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, those 3 main countries for the region. And then in 2006 moved to France. That was a kind of exchange and learning period for me at the R&D head office in Clermont-Ferrand. And from there, actually the Middle East and Africa was also managed for OTR.
Okay.
So I stayed there and I joined the Africa Middle East team for 2 years about, until somebody decided to move in China, and everybody was saying, okay, who is going to be a successor in China for the technical management for OTR? And they said, well, if you want, I will do it. I don't even have to ask my wife. She already told me, can we go to China?
Yeah.
So, okay, it seemed, eventually it seemed I was the first on the list. So, and we moved to China 2009. Mid-2009, when everybody was in crisis in Europe and in America, and China was in full bloom.
Yeah.
So I headed there and spent about 4 years again in China. But with the chances also to work in South Korea and Japan, Southeast Asia and everything. So that was really great. And in 2000, I have to think now, 2013, people were telling me, well, Koen, since you've been talking about service around tires and everything, we've got this new initiative going, and we want one person in the field for this new initiative, and that one person in the field is going to be in Australia, and we want you to do that if you want to do it. I said, okay, I'll do it. Great fun. So we moved to Melbourne, 2013, mid-2013. And then this was called the Michelin Better Mining Initiative, where we try to actually find ways to work with customers, to work with partners around services, around IT, around TPMS, and to develop that. But then the crisis of 2013-14 hit, and all of a sudden the focus was on what are we going to do with all those people and all those customers that don't want tires anymore? Yeah. While we just built a new factory in South Carolina. Yeah. And so there was somewhat less focus on the Michelin Better Mining Initiative. That was not the priority anymore at that time. So understandably, I mean, that's a logical decision, I'd say. So I was asked to go and jump in the Middle East, because one of our colleagues from the US, Mike Brown, had decided to retire early from Michelin, and his successor in Dubai at the time was not ready. So I said, Koen, can you fill the gap? 2016. And I said, sure, I'll do that, no problem. But, you know, as it goes, then you start thinking, and is this where I want to go? What's in it for me next? What's going to happen? And this and that. And there was some talk of, after Dubai, to ask me to go to the United States. And I said, whoa, that's a challenge. Yeah. So no. That doesn't have really anything to do with it. I thought there was opportunity for myself and my family, to take a new path and to go independent.
Yeah. Okay. So in doing so, you have launched the Global, which you certainly have experience internationally. But the Global OTR Tire Library.
That's right. Yeah.
Can you tell me about that? And is this a physical library? Is it or more of a virtual library?
Maybe around my desk in my home, it's more or less physical. Yes. But in reality, no, it's an online library, and you know the opportunities that are given to us today by IT are so tremendous. For sure. I think we need to take as much advantage as we can from that. Yeah. So it's an online library. It's free of charge. People can visit the Global OTR Library.com, and then register, just give their name, email, address, and then they'll get a password and a login, which they can access all of the documents, which is not only tires, but meanwhile has extended. I think we're now up to 7 shelves. There's something about safety, there's about wheels, there's about tools and equipment, there's about repair. So there's room for more. There has to come more because there's more information available. There's more things that people need.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. What made you say, hey, there's a need for this? And, instead of trying to go to countless manufacturers and let me put it all into one spot. Actually,
it comes from my personal frustration, as it often does.
Yeah.
I know that during my Michelin days, again, I already encountered, you want to try and collect some information, but if you do it physical, the challenge remains that is it up to date, right? So I did some work for some colleagues to say, we've got a bunch of stuff on CDs, and then we handed out CD-ROMs to people to upload it on their computer and everything.
Yeah.
But it was all a bit of a hassle. And the thing was, every time you wanted to do some sort of marketing study or technical study, and you wanted to look up information mostly about the competition, where do you go? And you put something in Google, and there you got 23 million responses in 0.52 seconds.
Yeah. And
that's all great, but you don't need 23 million. You need the 7 or the 8 or the 9 or the 10 specific ones that you need. So it's more from that I said, being specific around our industry and trying to bring in a base that can be helpful for everybody, just as it would be helpful for me, in fact. And the response was pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. What plans do you have for the library and or to continue? I know you're active within LinkedIn, and you've got some sponsors who help support the cause, if you will.
Thank you very much. Yourself?
Well, yeah, we're happy to help as well. But yeah. So what is your vision for that?
Yeah. Well, my main activity today is consulting around OTR tires. Okay. What I say, everything from what I call the end of the production line until the end of life of the tire and the recycling and all of that. I try to keep. I try to keep track of that and keep people informed of what is happening and initiatives, and follow myself. And I work around that as a consultant.
Sure.
So that's today my main activity. But let's say that depends on my physical and my mental capabilities, which will not, unfortunately, last forever. But I think I can build something that can last or outlast myself.
Yeah.
More around information, more around business specific for our industry. And I think there's room in the market to build a platform that not only provides information, but where people come to exchange, where people come to have news, where people come to do business with one another.
For sure.
So that is a bit the vision that I have, an OTR specific platform that can outlast myself and that can also be made better in the future by other people.
For sure. Speaking of which, it's a perfect segue. We are here at the OTR Conference, and I know you had a little bit of an adventure to get here thanks to flight cancellation, but what year is this for you? Attending the Off the Road Conference?
This would be the 3rd consecutive and the 4th participation in total, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what's your impression by it?
Well, as you may have also read through the posts and everything that I do, I think it's the people in our industry and in many other industries, but it's the people that make our industry.
Yeah.
And I think OTR is such a specific segment, a niche, that it allows, to get a grasp of what it is about. Of what it is about, of who it is about. So for me, the OTR conference is really coming and see the people, meeting the people, catching up about how it's been the past year, what you're going to do the next year, see you next year, and this and that. So that's really, for me, the OTR conference is all about.
It's always amazing to me that, you think, okay, tires is a massive market, massive industry, and then the world is obviously a large marketplace, right? But when you get down to the OTR business, it's really rather a small industry.
Yeah.
I've been in airports and seen people that I've known, right, from the tire industry, right, in the OTR world, and so this conference is somewhat of a who's who, right, of that. Obviously leaning more towards that North American market, but it is a global. This has got more countries represented this year, more first-time attendees. So this conference continues to grow, and it is the spot. So I noticed one of your polls or surveys that you had done yourself was to try and gauge interest to see if anything like this could potentially take place within Europe, I think.
That's right.
And probably in part because you took a bus from Antwerp to Brussels, and then had Brussels to Frankfurt, and that was supposed to go, I think, to Denver and then to Vegas, but that flight got canceled.
That was the goal.
That was the goal. So you ended up Frankfurt to Munich.
That's right.
Munich to San Fran.
Correct.
San Francisco to Las Vegas.
Yes.
You arrived in one piece, but about 8 hours later than you had hoped to, and so we're thankful for you being here and so on. But because of that, right, I think you were looking for something that maybe the European market, right, who might not want to do so much travel.
I think probably there's a cultural difference in a way, which is enriching.
Yeah.
All right. But indeed, my personal feeling is that the OTR conference in North America really is attracting the North American people and the people who want to be active in North America.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. And I think Europeans active in OTR one way or another, who want to access one way or another the North American market, they should attend the conference. For me, that's a clear cut. Yeah. On the other hand, TIA is also a very unique organization in a way, in the sense that we don't have TIA set up lobbying for the industry in Europe. We've got different organizations. Yes, you've got the ETRO.
More country-based, or?
No, I would say it's more manufactured-based.
Okay.
You've got some about the retreading, you've got some about the rubber, then you've got the tire manufacturers, and it's more around them, let's say each at their own level, while with OTR conference you get a feeling it's across all levels. It's a vertical rather than a horizontal. And I think that's the strength of the organization of TIA and the OTR conference in particular. And it's an organization that we don't have in Europe, in that vertical. And I think we have an opportunity to bring OTR people together in Europe around the same idea of learning, meeting people, networking. I mean, with the survey that we did, 2/3 of the respondents said that the main objective of them attending any conference in Europe would be networking.
Yeah.
And I think that's very valuable, and that would be exactly the goal of such a conference as well.
Okay, excellent. So as we're wrapping up here, I would say, what would you say to those people who say Swiss chocolate is better than Belgian chocolate?
Listen, everybody can have his opinion. And in French they say, les goûts et les couleurs se discutent pas.
Okay, ooh la la.
Yeah, tastes and colors, you cannot discuss them.
Okay.
All right, because everybody has their own.
Has an opinion.
but they're wrong.
Yeah.
All right, because Belgian chocolates are the best, of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, I noticed, so just with all the travels you have brought for us the best of both of Belgium's exports, I guess, right? Chocolates in the shape of diamonds.
Freshly cut for you.
Yeah, exactly. So that is fantastic. I'm glad that it made the journey with you. And do you have any parting words or feedback for our viewers out there? Anything else you'd want to share that we haven't covered already?
I think from my perspective, I think, Keith, what you're doing and the support you're giving just to our industry is great. And I think the podcast is a great idea.
Yeah.
It's something we need to do in Europe as well.
Yeah.
And elsewhere. But no, I think for me, the main thing is really that we bring our people together around the same theme. Within that industry, I think it's safety is the foremost and most important element of all that. Sharing information is helping to reach a level of safety higher every year. It's still not high enough because unfortunately people are still falling out because of accidents.
Yeah.
In that sense, I've seen in many cases that talking about safety, that many people will be aware when you talk at corporate level, management level, operational management, but that the guys who change the tire are often left out in the cold, literally, because they have not been trained properly, because they have not received the proper tools and equipment to do a good job, a safe job. So I think if that may be the end of the podcast, is let's continue to work on the safety aspect.
Yeah.
I think that's really the most important of it all.
Yeah, and I would agree, and I think that's going to be a big portion of the conference this time, and of the association in general. Having the insider view that I do, serving on the board, and as president this year, safety is for sure. Tire safety starts here, right? That's the motto for the Tire Industry Association. But it is something that I think has become in vogue. Right, where in years past maybe it wasn't so popular, right, to be safe. But you see it at the technician level and at the management level, right? People are calling out unsafe behavior, so that's good to see. Well, Koen, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Appreciate the travels, and we'll be looking for you on the Global OTR Tire Library.
Super. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Pleasure. Thanks for listening to As the Tire Turns. Tune in next week when we sit down with industry veteran John Malosi from AME International.